Day 18 of the Nativity Fast. The reading is from the Gospel, again, of St. Luke, chapter 20, continuing on, verses 9 through 18. It's the parable of the man who planted a vineyard. I won't go through the entire parable, because really what I want to focus on is the very last, sort of the moral of the story. The manager of a vineyard lends it out. The people, the tenants, keep everything for themselves. Finally, he comes back and destroys them. And he says that the very stone which the builders rejected has become the head of the corner. He quotes the Old Testament. He quotes the prophet. And then he says, everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces. But when it falls on anyone, it will crush him. And some versions say it will grind him into powder. And reading again from the commentary of St. Theophylact, there is, of course, Christ saying that he is the rock. And St. Paul would say that the rock in the Old Testament, the rock was Christ. Seeing it typologically, seeing it as a foreshadowing of what Christ would be to us. But St. Theophylact says, the beginning there where he says, they suffered when they took offense at Christ, for whoever shall fall upon that stone will be broken. And secondly, speaking of the Jewish people who would hear him, the destruction at the time of the captivity of Jerusalem, which was brought upon them by the stone which they had despised, but on whomever it shall fall, it will crush him to powder. The Jews indeed were crushed to powder and scattered like chaff from the threshing floor that is from Judea into all the world. Note that first they fell upon the stone, that is, they took offense, tripping upon the rock that lay in their path. And then as a result, the stone fell on them in punishment. First comes my own sin, and then the righteous punishment of God upon me. And it's interesting because he said they ought to have given heed to Isaiah, who said, sanctify you the Lord himself, and he will be your fear. You will not come against him as against a stone in stumbling, nor as against a rock in falling. I'm grateful that he said, first comes my sin, and then the righteous punishment of God upon me, the chastisement, the correction of God. Would that we receive that initial interaction with Christ when our sin butts up against the rock of Christ. We are broken. We are broken. We trip, we fall. We are broken. This is why in Psalm 50, Psalm 51 in Protestant Bibles, where it says, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. A sacrifice acceptable to God is a broken and contrite spirit. Is this because God delights in breaking us? No, of course not. But it can be no other way. Nobody gets out of this unfazed. There's always something that has to be broken and set like a broken bone. It has to be set. It has to be reformed and fashioned so that it can ultimately be healed. This is reminding me of a person who related to me a story of a friend of his that struggled from a very particular sin, and it plagued him for years and years and years and years and years. And this person telling me the story had not suffered from that particular sin, and he listened to his friend and was astonished. How can you not be so furious with God for allowing you to live your life with this particular temptation, this weakness that you fall continually into, that not everybody has this addiction, this kind of thing that not everybody falls prey to. Why should you have to struggle with this all of your life? And his answer was, if it wasn't this, it would be something else. Everyone has a cross. Every one of us, when we come across the rock of Christ, we have a weakness that gets exposed. We have a struggle that gets engaged. We have a sacrifice that needs offering. So let us not run from that. Certainly let us not delude ourselves into thinking that God will not end our ability to engage in those things one day. Let us not be ground into powder by the inevitability of our coming face to face with Christ. Let us accept what brokenness he may lay upon us, that out of trust we can be healed. May God bless you. Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.